Hey, what's up, everyone? Today we're listening to Behind the Bastards, How the Rich Ate Christianity. I love this kind of stuff. How did we get to the point where Jesus is somehow a guy who is a... What? How are the Christians doing war and not giving to charity and, like, not being nice to women and children and somehow really liking the corporations? That was the Romans. I don't know how we got here. The stuff like this, I love how he pieces it all together, and we can go back and like see what maybe where we are right now, just a little bit. Okay, let's give it a shot.
If they're going to make Christianity and capitalism be the same thing in the minds of millions of Americans, it's not going to, a bunch of CEOs aren't going to make that happen. They need an inside man. They need a popular, charismatic preacher who knows how to talk to other ministers and to congregations. They need an active partner who is a religious leader, and they find this partner in James W. Fifield Jr. Now, I want to quote from a write-up in Politico by Kevin Cruz, who's done a lot of writing on this subject. Quote, in December of 1940, more than 5,000 industrialists from across the nation made their yearly pilgrimage to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City, convening for the annual meeting of the National Association of Manufacturers. The program promised an impressive slate of speakers: titans at General Motors, General Electric, Standard Oil, Mutual Life, and Sears Roebuck, popular lecturers such as etiquette expert Emily Post and renowned philosopher-historian Will Durant, even FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. Tucked away near the end of the program was a name few knew initially: Reverend James W. Fifield Jr. Handsome, tall, and somewhat gangly, the 41-year-old Congregationalist minister bore more than a passing resemblance to Jimmy Stewart. Addressing the crowd of business leaders, Fifield delivered a passionate defense of the American system of free enterprise and a withering assault on its perceived enemies in Franklin D. Roosevelt's administration. Decrying the New Deal's encroachment upon our American freedoms, the minister listed a litany of sins committed by the Democratic government, ranging from its devaluation of currency to its disrespect for the Supreme Court. Singling out the regulatory state for condemnation, he denounced the multitude of federal agencies attached to the executive branch and warned ominously of the menace of autocracy approaching through bureaucracy. So,
all right.
Yeah.
I have to assume Emily Post had some notes on that speech.
I think she was on board.
Might not have been great etiquette, though.
I think we might not want to look too much into what Emily Post believed.
It's wild that you could have like someone who is an etiquette expert whose name is still recognizable. You know,
It is.
what
It's
if someone was
impressive.
going around now being an etiquette expert?
Yeah.
Isn't that what an influencer is, ultimately?
Yeah. No.
So friends. So we have a bunch of like business boys, and they want everyone to be like, we're the best business boys. We want to do business all the time, even on Sunday, and even if it's against your religion or whatever. We love business, and we want people to have business as their religion and not whatever their religion is. So they hired a guy to like come up with sermons and like spread this idea that like business boys is actually what Jesus liked and what he was talking about whenever he was like, on earth as it is in heaven. Yeah, forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors, feed the poor, children are good, whatever. He really just meant like business boys. So they hired Fifield Jr. to come up with sermons and distribute those sermons to other preachers to get them to connect Jesus with the business boys, and then like have them be like, oh, they were always best friends. Like Jesus actually loves the shopkeepers and like the money changers, and like you can actually do that in the temple now. That's totally fine. It won't make God angry, and like if it does, you shouldn't fear it, because like actually business is like bigger than God. And like, how do we say that without people freaking out? Because the Beatles tried to say that one time and people got real upset. So I think that's what's happening.
That's good.
So nice.
I was using the universe of that's why it wasn't working on that TV.
Oh my god. Alright. I'm doing, hey everyone, doing some commentary today on Behind the Bastards, one of my favorite podcasts, about how the rich ate Christianity. We're just jumping right in. He's talking about World War II. Let's give it a try. Thanks for joining me. Okay. I knew how
FDR talks to the nation. And FDR is really, for all of the arguments that are very valid, about him essentially stopping a socialist revolution by introducing reform. He also really ties Christianity to anti-capitalism in his speeches. In one, FDR states, quote, "The money changers have fled their high seats in the temple of our civilization," when he's talking about the New Deal. So NAM's plan to reverse this is they are dealing with this is not an easy thing, right? Today it's obviously the left is godless and the right is Christian and capitalist. That is they have a long road to get there at this point.
They gotta basically climb the aggro crack.
Yeah, they gotta climb the aggro crack. That's exactly right.
That's the metaphor I would use.
You have to hit each button along the way. You have to hit the combine capitalism with Jesus button. You have to hit the You have to
a lot what needs
do a lot of fog.
and they get delayed by a little thing you guys might have heard of. You haven't really covered it in your show, so I'm not sure if you're aware of it. World War II, which
What?
Yeah, there was a second one. It was not as interesting. It was not
This is
as
how I
interesting.
find out about this.
I think this kind of stuff is fascinating. I've always been such a little shit. You tell me something to read and I will read it and then argue with you about it. So I want the religion to match up with the book, at least a little bit, and to know the history and how things got to be the way that they are. And I think this podcast, he's talking about the way in which somehow we've gotten to the point where Jesus is on the side of the tax collectors and the money changers in the temple. And we've got churches not doing charity or giving to the poor, and a lot of victim blaming, and I don't know, a lot of churches or Christianity or streams of religious thought that goes in the opposite direction than it used to just very recently. And what Jesus said, how did that all happen? That button and then this
This is
button.
what I gotta go.
It was less aliens and more Temple of Doom, Yeah, unfortunate. You hate to see, a sequel that just doesn't live up to the original, but
Sophomore slump.
yeah.
For
So
World
exactly,
Wars.
World War III though. That's gonna be our Alien 3. Finally, the good
What?
one.
You don't like the Last Crusade?
I hate these jokes. I hate it so much. It's a very irksome. You have seen war. It's bad. And I know that you're just kidding around, but I don't like it. I don't like the sarcasm. War is super terrible and bad. I get it. It's not my favorite thing. This button.
Say it. I like the Last Crusade.
Actually, the
good.
Last Crusade is
I
maybe
think
my
it's
favorite
good.
of them. Yeah.
It's so
Sean
great.
Connery and Harrison Ford. What more do you
Oh,
want?
man.
Sean Connery and
The
Harrison
scene
Ford
where he's
fighting
got
Nazis.
he's got the stamp in the library, and at
Yeah.
the same time he gets this. That's just great comedy. That's just great comedy, man.
It is. It's a good movie. So let's hope our World War III is less Alien 3 and more Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Fingers crossed, everyone.
Ooh.
Our World War III that may have started by the time this episode drops.
Well, to be fair, that's World War IV, according to some people, because of the Cold War.
Cold War,
Some of the
sure.
people who are maybe involved in the story you're telling might view it that way.
My argument is, if the Germans don't start it, it's not a world war. You know?
If it's not from Champagne in France, it's
Yeah.
not really Champagne.
Yeah,
not really
it's just a
Champagne.
sparkling global conflict.
Can I just say,
Okay, give it a rest, guys. Give it a rest. Okay. So if I do stop or...
Far-right causes, including a newspaper he called The Free Man. He was heavily involved in Princeton's theological
He's
school.
a slave.
Yeah, he's a slave to me.
Yeah, the free man. Yeah.
And he kept up a bracing correspondence with different pastors. When Pew came to him complaining about the NCC, he wrote, quote, "This nation, under God, was the slogan of the National Council of Churches when it was organized, and I have always felt that it was an incomplete quotation that has been improperly used in some quarters. What Lincoln said was, 'This nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom that has sounded magnificent, for liberty comes from God, and freedom, its environment, is maintained by the state.' The United States of America, dedicated to freedom, affected the separation of church and state, but that in no way threw over the doctrine that this nation is under God's governance."
So liberty comes from God. And America is about protecting liberty. And liberty just means property. So actually, Jesus wants you to have more private property, I think is the logic here. Very interesting stuff.